Hey guys, I'm not sure you've heard that name, but Braxton is a really outstanding name, isn't it? And I got to know Braxton Bennett the first time. I think that was at the AMZ Innovate, wasn't it, in New York?
We bumped into each other a lot. That might have been the first time. I think you're right.
That was, I believe, or actually, is it the first or second? Doesn't matter. This is, I think, one of the, I mean, for sure we went there. But now, what it comes to today is something you may or may not have heard of, Brands 10X. Um, Braxton, tell us a little bit about what is Brands 10X? And hint, hint, it's a coaching community, isn't it?
Do you want the, can I go, can I give the long background story? Can I
Sure.
give you the long answer?
Go ahead.
So the long answer is we've worked in an agency context in the Amazon space. We've worked in the event space with
Mm,
Amazon sellers. We've had spent a lot of time working with Amazon sellers, and Brands 10X is really our answer to what we see as a huge gap in the industry. Amazon sellers are a really cool group. It's this group of people that come from all different walks of life to kind of become the self-made entrepreneur business owner. But we found that because of those unique backgrounds, a lot of people, this is their first time ever building an actual business. All of a sudden, they have a product that works. All of a sudden, they have a
right.
seven-figure business on their hands that they've never, that we kind of sometimes despite their own best efforts. And
Mhm.
it's the first time that they've ever had to really think strategically about building a business and all aspects of their business. So Brands 10X is a coaching community where we provide tools to help business owners think about where they want to get their business to from seven figures to eight figures to an exit, and how to strategically plan quarter by quarter until they get to that point.
So what's the gap? The gap is the strategic coaching, how to get there.
Right. So we see all
Nice.
kinds of amazing service providers that provide very specialized services on all the aspects of building an Amazon brand, but very few that are teaching how to think strategically about your business. Things like building out a team, setting KPIs, setting a meeting cadence, how to plan for the next 10 and 5 and 3 years, and set quarterly priorities, how to uh, prioritize your how to allocate resources and cash
Mhm.
flow. So things like that that are much more big picture. We provide strategic coaching on all of those.
So what you say is that pretty much, or it sounds like it, not a lot of people really have like a grasp on their own strategy of how to grow. But on the other hand, it is important, I mean, to have a grasp on your strategy in order to grow your business. Is that what you do with the
Yeah.
coaching to help, I guess, establish the strategy and push through with it?
Correct. And to be fair, there are people that do, and you can tell, watch from an outside looking in, you can see that a lot of people have built large businesses like this before and they have a strategy. But for those who don't, it can be very frustrating. One of the most common things when working in the agency, we used to have brand owners tell us all the time, I just need a roadmap. Like
Right.
somebody give me a roadmap for what to do. There's so many different shiny objects that I could be chasing, whether it's TikTok Shop or Google Ads or Facebook Ads or Amazon DSP. There's no limit to the things that you should be doing for your brand. And it can be really confusing which to choose. And we found that what's missing is a long-term roadmap. When you determine where you want your brand to get to, then we can easily put together a roadmap for how to get there. But usually the missing piece is where do you want to get to? So for
True.
some people, that's an eight-figure exit. For some people, that is a cash cow. For some people, it's something that they can pass down to their kids to operate. For every person, that might be different. And so there's a different roadmap depending on what it is you're trying to build. And so getting clear on what that is and hearing from other people with experience building that, then the day-to-day decisions of what channel should I be on or what marketing
Right.
platform should I use, those questions become much easier when you have a roadmap.
So it's not only about, of course, the why behind it, but of course the where to go to. And if you don't have a target or no goal or anything, then well, you go anywhere, but not towards a goal.
Well said. Very well said.
Nice.
100%.
Um, when it comes to the strategy, what are some of the main aspects that you usually see, or some of the Yeah, what are maybe the strongest aspects you should focus on when building your strategy? What's important?
Good question. So we have a few different tools and frameworks that we'll sit down with a brand and we'll just one-on-one we'll help walk them through step by step. The best way to start is to start big picture. And so we'll sit down and we'll say, what's your 5 or 10 year vision? And most people, you ask that question, their eyes kind of get big and they think I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna do tomorrow. I got to figure out who I got to hire this week. What do you mean in 10 years?
Yeah.
And it can be really, really hard to shift this mindset from entrepreneur to, just solve whatever's in front of me to shifting my focus to what do I want to accomplish 5 or 10 years from now? And then we'll break that down. We'll say, what's the vision for long term? What are the brand promises that you want your brand to uphold? And then what are the KPIs that you're going to use 10 years from now to determine whether or not that has actually taken place? What are the questions that you can ask yourself that will help you determine if you're moving in that direction? And these things sound really simple, but they can be extremely powerful. They can, those same things that you've put the time into defining, you can use those to hire and fire. You can use those to say yes or no to new opportunities. It starts to become sort of your North Star. Then
Yeah.
once you have that nailed down, then you just work backwards from there. Then we go to 3 years, then we go to 12 months, then we go to this quarter. And with each step, we get a little bit more granular.
Nice. Yeah, I do see, or very often I'm an avid book reader, or by now also an audiobook listener. And it's sometimes so shocking how simple sometimes answers can be when you have, like, let's say, a very clear strategy, or when you take the learnings from a book and you distill it down to like 2 or 3 points, and you're just like, that's so obvious. That's so, you need to do that thing, and then this, and then this, and just continue, and you have a plan. And it's like, one of those, I call them like switches in the head. Once they're switched, it's like you can't go back. It's just like
You have a
you
paradigm
can't
shift.
unlearn it, right? And I guess when you come
Yeah.
with those aspects in there in the strategy, you will clearly define it's like, this is where you want to go. Those are the
You
steps to
really hit it
take.
on the head, man. You're absolutely right. There's nothing really you know, secret or unheard of that we're focusing on. But really the power is when a brand comes to us and decides to join our community, they're committing to taking time every single week to work on this kind of stuff and then work with other brand owners to brainstorm and share and they're tackling these problems within a community. So it's not that nobody could figure this stuff out on their own, and a lot of people do. But what we're providing is a place for them to go and commit to being every single week where they're
Mm.
digging into these problems.
Mm.
And it's work, it's a lot of work. And the fruits of that work sometimes are delayed. But the brands that really dig in and start asking these hard questions and doing the work to define these long-term goals, the day-to-day things start to become more clear and start to become easier. And then, that you're able to sleep a lot easier at night because you have a roadmap in place for what you're trying to build.
I have, well, obviously I have another question. I always have a lot of
Yeah, hit
questions.
me. You have
I have
awesome
an
questions.
answer to myself as well, but I'd be interested to see like
Hey,
what
that's
you,
even better.
um, what's like when you look at brands and you want to grow them, what's like the one advice you would want to give them in order, if you want to expand, if you want to grow, what's the, what do you say? Like maybe the main advice, the best advice that you would give them.
I mean, so to be totally transparent, I personally have never grown a brand. I've grown a business that was not an e-commerce brand. I mean, I'm finding that these principles apply just as much to pretty much any business you're trying to build. And so my personal advice, and so the host of our community, our main coach is Jamin Arvig, who has built and sold several eight-figure businesses. He's had his hands in the trenches of building brands for years and years. So he has all kinds of advice for a brand like this. My advice would be to say um, the answer to your growth is probably not something different. It's just more of what you're currently doing. We just work with so many brand
Okay.
owners that are chasing the next shiny object or the next big thing. And
If it
it's
works, rinse
because
and
when,
repeat, huh?
Yeah, or even if it doesn't work, figure out why it's not working and keep doing it. Don't just move on to the next thing because it probably, the reason the thing you're working on right now isn't working is probably the same reason that something else won't work.
Yeah. My answer to this would have been discipline. Probably when listening to what you've said before is, you have your strategy, or it's probably kind of close to it. It's like, do it. Just no excuses. Do it.
Put
Discipline.
your head down and
Go
do the
push
work.
through.
And that's not very sexy advice. Like nobody wants to
No.
hear that, right? This video might not get
Nobody
very
wants
many
to be
views. People are
disciplined.
going to
There are
say,
all
man,
shiny objects everywhere, of course.
yeah, show me something cool. Show me TikTok shop that's going to get me this many sales in 1 week, right? Nobody wants to hear
Exactly.
that.
Don't tell me that I have to do those things right now. I'm self-employed. I'm doing a business. Why do I need to follow orders?
It's really cool to see because one of the greatest strengths of an entrepreneur, and oftentimes what a lot of entrepreneurs have in common is that they want that they're excited about the next big thing. They have unlimited energy to pursue the next big thing. Their
Mhm.
imagination is
Mhm.
I mean it's the only reason you'd be crazy enough to jump in and try to go out on your own and start something. But if you're not careful, that can also become your greatest weakness if you're not able to just put your head down and do the work day after day, and stick to the strategy that you've put in place.
Yep. Agree. I can tell this by myself, of course. I mean, nobody's perfect by far. I am not. And
We've all
discipline
been
and
there, huh?
through and following, and you have to do this. Why do I catch myself doing something else? Like, no, do that. Think. It's the logic. It's discipline. You have your strategy. Go do it. If you don't want to do it,
Yeah,
well, don't be an entrepreneur. Um, you mentioned
absolutely.
TikTok, big, big, big shiny object, of course. But now let's say, for
Sure.
example, all of our clients, our network and everything, they're Amazon sellers. There's Shopify as well. There's big box retail. There's TikTok. There's so many other. But what if you want to build a multi-channel strategy? Can you go about this with a strategy? Should you not? And how could you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully I'm not misrepresenting the point, which is if your goal is to be a multi-channel brand, that's not a bad thing. But our message would be let's do it with a strategy. Let's define what we want that to look like. And then we just got off a call last week with a brand who he had mapped out over the next 3 years, every single quarter, he had mapped out which products he was going to launch, which channels he was going to be focusing on. And so he's taking steps today because he knows in Q3 of 2026, I want to be launching this product on this channel because my goal is to be on these 3 channels. And so now instead of just guessing like, well, maybe this week it's TikTok shop, let's give that a try. It's a very strategic approach to say, I want to be on these channels and here's why. And so here's my detailed plan for putting all of the pieces in place to get there. Because one of the biggest problems that most, especially new e-commerce entrepreneurs have is cash flow. Your cash flow is one of your biggest restrictions. Or one of your biggest constraints. And so if you have a clear plan of where you want, what products you want to launch and on what marketplaces or what channels, then you can allocate your cash flow accordingly,
Hmm.
instead of just constantly trying to have more.
Nice. Okay. Um, there was another question that just came in between, and I just lost it. But well, okay, maybe it wasn't that important. Pitch for you right now. What do you with Brand 10X? How can you now help? How can they find you? Where can they find you? And again, what does the process look like when working together? How do you make sure? How do you implement? How do you make them grow? How can you help them?
Thanks for asking. So we try to make it really, really easy for brands to get started. One of the challenging things right now in the space with agencies is you often have to commit to several $1,000 a month contract to get on board, and it sometimes takes a month or two and maybe a couple $1,000s to find if you're the right fit or if this provider really is what they say that weekly, which means for just $300 you can get started and you can have a one-on-one session with our coach. You can join our community, join the first call and get a feel for inside the community, see all the materials that we have available, everything on the platform. And if it's not the right fit for you, then you can walk away, no questions asked, and we both move on. If it is the right fit and we find that if what we've talked about so far is resonating with you, then it probably is. then you just stay on week after week until you've gotten the value out of it that you need, and then you can move on. So best way to get started is you can go to brands10x.com, or you can send me an email, brexton at brands10x.com. Either one of those, and I'll send you more information. But yeah, we try to in that very first week you'll get a one-on-one call with a $50 million brand owner who will walk you through how to build a roadmap. You'll get access to all of our PDFs and training videos on how to build it. You get a heck of a lot more than $300 worth of value.
Is it then going to be a boot camp that you kick their butts to say, look, there's a plan, go do it? Maybe
We
you
try
should
not
make
to
it
kick
that
any
way.
butts. Maybe we should kick more butts. You might be right. In fact, Sebastian, we might have to get you in there, start kicking more butts for us.
This boot camp
No,
drill
it's
sergeant.
right. Well, one of the things that's most fun about the community is the other brands that are within there. So obviously we have our coaches that have a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom to share, but there's something pretty magical about being surrounded by a bunch of other brand owners who are sharing their wins, sharing their successes. They're in the trenches, same as you, and the energy and the insight that is shared. It's a pretty amazing resource. So not butt kicking, but very inspiring, I would say.
Say the email address again. What is it, Braxton?
BREXTON at brands10x.com.
Directly at Brand10X. Again, I guess I told you this name. I mean, for me, it was the first time hearing the name Braxton. It sounds so Oxford, actually.
Yeah,
That's a pretty cool name. I think people will remember that. That's an unfair advantage you got there. I'm telling you,
right.
people will
Have to
come
thank
to
my parents for that one.
Brand10X because of the guys called Braxton. Nice.
That's right.
Tell Jamin that you gotta be paid extra for your name.
I'll let him know. Great idea.
Fantastic.
Thanks, man.
All
Yeah,
right, then
Sebastian, thanks for the questions, man. Appreciate it.
no
Love talking
worries, no
about it.
worries. You guys know where to find them, Braxton at brands10x.com, or just directly go to brands10x.com. And I guess we'll see each other on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and anywhere else as well. We're connected, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cheers. Any last suggestions you have for the listeners?
Um,
Challenge.
no, nothing else. Just keep at it. Keep at the grind. There's magic in the grind.
I believe so as well. Braxton, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Sebastian, sounds good.